was a great game. The first two games, we here at the Westgate will be rooting for Penn State on New Year's Eve because we just need to get Boise State out of the futures pool. Get them out of there. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. And then it looks like we'll be rooting for Arizona State in the early game on New Year's Day. Really sharp money on the Sun Devils. The Sun Devils offense has been incredible down the stretch this season. So a lot of sharp money on them.
Sweet. I love to hear that. That is my best bet. Our good friends at BetQL just tweeted that out, but I did not retweet it yet because I have this show on live. John, one last question. I have a futures bet on the Ohio State Buckeyes, and it's come down a couple of bucks since I bet it a few short weeks ago. What kind of liability do you have besides Boise State in the futures market? Anything maybe I should be looking forward to or possibly thinking about hedging?
We don't want Texas. So I'd say Texas would be the other team we're trying to get out of there. We do great on Ohio State, which I consider to be the best team in the country. We do great on Oregon. We do great on Georgia. We just want to see I'm not really worried about Boise State, but it's always a little nerve-wracking just having a team out there. I mean, we are down to 8 teams here. If they win one game on Tuesday, it's not like it'd be impossible for them to beat Notre Dame or Georgia. It's not impossible. So I do want them out of there. And then after that, the team that's the betting favorite here that we do have liability on is Tejas, Kelly's Longhorns. Get them out of there. Hopefully they don't switch to Arch Manning, the better quarterback, and they stick with Quinn Ewers. And then I think they'll probably lose to the Ohio State-Oregon winner.
I think they're probably going to lose to Arizona State on Thursday. You're welcome for that.
Okay, even better. I hope you're right.
They're the barking dog of the week, the laughable long shot with our friends over at Chuckle. John Murray, you're the best. Thanks for hanging out with us here every single Sunday. Now that we've worked through all of the tech issues and NFL season is over, but he has promised me he's going to be with us through the Super Bowl. Don't you guys fret.
I don't think I said that. I said I would do it whenever Liverpool is playing, and they do. Liverpool plays Manchester United next Sunday morning, so
perfect.
Count me in. I'll be here.
We'll see you then.
I
can't wait for it to be a 5-1 final. Apparently, I am Liverpool's good luck charm, which is why we're going to go to a game in August. All right, guys. Steve Merril just popped in. So we're going to take all of your questions regarding the NFL slate today, it's not a beauty of a slate, Steve. Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but just kind of looking at this slate, there's not a lot of games. And I already started working on the bet on it script for next week. And there's not a lot of games on week 18 either that leave much to be desired. But we're going to go through this slate, guys. If you have a question for Steve, drop it in the chat. All right. Any sharp money on Miami today? Jessica wanted to know. Look, they went from, no Tua to, bringing up poor Skylar Thompson again from the practice squad. And here we are, Steve. Talk to me about this Miami team. They were in the playoff hunt there, down the stretch. Tua gets hurt. Now what?
Well, the key, I think, to this handicap is that they're still playing the Cleveland Browns. And no matter who Miami has at quarterback, they will have the better quarterback on the field, even if it's a wide receiver, because Dorian Thompson-Robinson, or whatever his name is going for the Browns again. He is horrendous, Kelly. Limited action last year, limited action last week. In his 2-year career now, 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions. He averages less than 4 yards a pass attempt and like a 40-something QB rating. He is horrendous. The Browns are terrible. So it might not matter who Miami has at quarterback. And instead of getting him -6.5 a couple days ago, there's now -3s out there. It's Miami or pass for me in this game.
Ooh, a little buy low spot on the Dolphins, says Steve Merril. All right, this is going to be a good game, actually, Steve. Kendrick Blackman wants to know, is Atlanta and Washington going to be a shootout today? Here's some interesting stuff. So VR told us the public was on Washington. John Murray told us the public was on Washington. I already have bet the Atlanta Falcons. I think it was Marco that may have given them out on bet on it this week. And I said, all right, Marco, I agree with you. I'll join you here. It looks like it's going to be a shootout, but I'm not sure as far as this Washington defense goes. I think that they have been the Achilles heel all season long and makes me not want to take the under. How about that?
I agree. It would be over for me as well with the total here. I did a free play video earlier this week. It's here on WagerTalk TV right now. So if you want a deep 5-minute analysis of the total in this game. It's available. I also touched on the side in my Fade the Public video, Kelly, because as you mentioned, the Commanders, not my Washington Commanders, damn it, they're one of the most public plays this week in the NFL. And, we don't just blindly fade the public. And the public overall has won this season. And it's mainly because the terrible teams like the Browns earlier or the Giants, they just continue to not cover or win. One of the subsets, one of the filters I like to use with the public data, of course, I'd love to fade public dogs. We don't have any this week. But the reason that premise works is because you get a quality team on the other side. So whenever we're fading the public, I want a decent team. And the Atlanta Falcons can clinch the division title. So I do think they're a live dog in this game. Obviously, having a true rookie quarterback, Penix, making his first road start is a huge X factor, no pun intended. By the way, NFL history will be made tonight. It's the first time a primetime game has two first-round rookie quarterbacks going against each other. Second-round number 2 pick Daniels, number 8 pick Penix. I lean towards the Falcons here. I think they are the better defense, as you mentioned, and they're a quality team. Always like to fade the public with quality teams. That would be Atlanta in this one.
Looking at the odds logic screen, pretty much 3.5s across the board there, Steve. So if you missed the 4, you definitely don't want to miss the 3.5. I know that it's not as a significant jump, but definitely don't let that one get to 3. This is one we haven't talked about today. Dino wants to know any thoughts on the Vikings-Packers game, Steve. This Packers team is kind of flipped back and forth all week long from being the favorite. Vikings, I've been wrong about them all season long. Every time I bet on the Vikings, I've been wrong. Every time I bet against the Vikings, I've been wrong. I think I'm 0-4 when betting against Minnesota Vikings or betting on them this season.
Well, then I need to know what side you like in this game before I go any further.
I like the Packers. Of course I do.
That's going to be the way I lean as well. But you're due. 2 ways to look at it. You're due, so I'm glad that you're on the pack. I did a standalone video for this game as well. It's up here on WagerTalk TV right now. Deep dive into this huge matchup. And by the way, this is the standalone, the only 4:25 Eastern game, Fox National TV. So this is basically as big as that Commanders-Falcons game that was flexed into Sunday night. My guess, though, Kelly, is they would have flexed this game, but Fox probably said no. I don't know for sure, but I think the networks probably get to pick the game, and then the other game gets flexed in. So this is a really good one on basically prime time as well later this afternoon. When I did that solo video a couple days ago, the line had gone from 1.5 down to pick 'em, and I mentioned that we lost a good teaser opportunity, but now it's back to +1. I don't know if we're going to see a 1.5 by kickoff. 1.5 is not a big difference, but for teaser bettors, as you know, that's a huge difference. So if we can get it at 1.5, if you can get Green Bay up to 7.5 or more, I think they make an excellent teaser. They've only lost one game all season by more than 5 points. That was a 10-point loss to the Lions. So Green Bay at 7.5 or more is an excellent teaser this afternoon.
Steve, just as I went to submit Packers +1, Packers pick them. Your line has changed. Somebody is listening to the show live and moving markets, all jokes aside. Steve is very sharp, and I like the fact that he is on the Packers. They were on my long list. Jerome Bray wants to know, what about the Colts on the money line? Steve, I knew it was going to be public, but this is a Colts team that I wanted to back against a lowly Giants team. We mentioned the quarterback disparities here, but listen, Joe Flacco came in last year, was able to do what he needed to do off of his couch. I think he is able to fill in nicely for AR-15. That's why we only saw a half-point line move, so don't overreact to that. But it is still a road game for a Colts team that has struggled from time to time this year.
Yeah, you can almost call it a quarter-point line move. It was 7.5. Now it's 7 minus 15. There are some 7.5 still out there, actually. It's starting to go back up there. The WagerTalk live odds screen is lighting up now. Some of those 7s are going back to 7.5. So it barely moved, and it shouldn't move. I talked about this game also in my public video. If you look at the overall seasonal stats, Richardson and Flacco, both very mediocre. I think there's absolutely no difference between the two. I would rather have the Colts -7 with Flacco than 7.5 with Richardson. So keep an eye on this line. Yes, the Colts are a very public play this week, and I don't think it's the public is necessarily on the Colts. It takes two sides to tango. Nobody's on the Giants. The Colts become public by default because nobody's playing the Giants. I don't disagree. I talked earlier about how these terrible teams continue to fade. I think they're, 1-9 straight up ATS their last 10 games now. And they also have 2 to 3 more starters that are out this week. I mean, they're just decimated, and they're not good on top of that. Colts are pass. Would rather have them at -7. This teaser does make me a little nervous, Kelly. This reminds me a lot of that Commanders-Saints teaser a couple weeks ago, doesn't it? But once again, Colts down. The Colts down to -1, 1.5 on a teaser. Probably not a bad option.
Yeah, it makes me nervous too because guess who I have in Survivor? Oh, wait, the Indianapolis Colts. All right, Kenneth Clausen wants to know what do Sharps think about the Jets at +10? Look, I've had this meme up saved on my computer on my phone that says, I will not bet the Jets, I will not bet the Jets, I will not bet the Jets forever. And that's because this team, no matter who is coaching, no matter who is under center, it doesn't seem to matter. I don't know if they're a cursed franchise or what. They have just been abysmal once again this year, Steve. Yes, this is a divisional rivalry, right? This is a Bills team who was just taken to the wire by the New England Patriots because the 12-3 Bills are on cruise control. This is a lot of points, but I don't know if I could really stomach betting the Jets here.
Yeah, I've always said the one edge you have as a sports bettor is that you don't have to play every game. They have to put a number up on every game. You don't have to play every game. I'm not touching this game. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. This game did almost make my public list. It was an additional lean. The public is leaning on the Bills. Yet the line has gone from 11 down to 10 over the past week or so. I still want nothing to do with really either side here. Last week, by the way, was the spot to fade Buffalo. We talked about it here on the show. I told everyone I liked the Patriots. I said fade the public in the video. The Bills were very public last week. I also had a client best bet. Part of my current 12-0 perfect run the last 3 Sundays was a Patriots best bet last week. And when they're up 14-0, covering by 28, I was feeling pretty good. And then I started to sweat it in the second half when the Patriots became the Patriots. You just can't ask bad teams to do something good. And that's what you're talking about with the Jets here. They're a bad team. Definitely probably have tossed the towel in the season. Most teams don't give up in December. Ugly dogs do normally cash. But you got to be careful with those teams that had playoff aspirations that have vastly underperformed. Last week was the flat spot for Buffalo. That's why I like New England. They're coming off the big games. KC, San Francisco at home. Rams, Detroit on the road. That was the letdown spot. They started slow, turned it on in the second half. I'd stay off this game here, but I want nothing to do with the Jets. If I had to play it, probably take the Bills at -10 or less.
Okay, so really quickly, I'm trying to look at the playoff scenario over the next 2 weeks and how we should add that to our handicap. The Bills have not necessarily clinched, right? So Kansas City and the Bills are both jockeying for.
KC has clinched number 1 with their win on
they did
the other day
against Pittsburgh. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, I saw it last night when I was watching the late game. That's the only reason I knew, Kelly, because I haven't dug too deep into it yet either. Because I'm really not going to worry about it until after this week. But according to what I saw last night on NFL Network, it said KC at 15-1 is clinched. What I don't know is if Buffalo, Baltimore, how it matters who's 2-3, if they care that much. But that is something that could come into play here, but I don't think they can get number 1 anymore.
No, you're right. Because even though they beat Kansas City,
right,
in November, but it looks like they've already clinched.
Yeah, they're 12-3, so they can't
in
catch
a first round game at home. So here's my question then: do they start in the second half of Week 17? Do they start to rest some of these guys, and does that play into a handicap? Again, this is just this game as a scenario. I know you don't have a play on this game. I don't want to back the Jets at all, but starting to look at this over the next week and a half and realizing, hey, maybe this team is better as a first half play because it looks like if they do clinch and X, Y, and Z team lose, then there's no reason for a Josh Allen, or Jared Goff to be out there putting their body on the line.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll give you an example this week. Tomorrow night, the Monday night game is exactly what you're talking about. Depending on the Viking-Packer outcome today, the Detroit-San Francisco Monday night game tomorrow night means a lot or it means nothing. That's how crazy this is. If the Packers win today, then the Lions clinch the number 1 seed with a win tomorrow night. So, yeah, they'll be full throttle. If the Vikings win today, it doesn't matter if the Lions win or lose tomorrow night. They have to beat the Vikings next week for the number 1. Now, Dan Campbell's come out and said he will play his starters regardless. He probably will because he's borderline insane. That's why they've been like a 70% point spread play. That's also why half his team is injured. But with that said, I think at some point, if the Vikings win today, you got to be careful playing everyone tomorrow night. I did a standalone video for the Monday night game, got it up early the other day because I recommended Detroit first half. Line is 3.5. They're the most public play this week, maybe the most public play I've seen all season, so that is a concern. But -2.5 first half makes a lot of sense because if they need to win tomorrow night, they're going to play strong. If they don't, I think Campbell still plays the starters for like the first half, kind of what you're talking about, and then they back off. We saw Cam Ward do that yesterday for Miami of Florida. They're up 10. They end up losing outright. It's a sneaky way to play these games going forward, and I think first half options are a great way to look, even first quarters maybe.
Awesome. Okay. David wants to know, everyone is on Tampa Bay money line. Do you like the Panthers +10, Steve, double R, Merril? I always laugh whenever people say that. Look, I was on the Panthers last week, Steve. Very happy they got the outright result as my barking dog. I don't know. This is a Panthers team that, listen, by all accounts, I do think they're going to be improved next season, right? Carolina really just kind of had that really awful start. Everybody was just bashing Bryce Young. He gets benched, and then he comes back, right? Also, when they played in Carolina, this was a really tough game. I mean, if you remember, it went in overtime. Bucs won the game late. I don't think that was a fluky result, and I think the Panthers match up really well with the Bucs. But I'm not sure the Bucs now back at home with, missing a couple of their main guys. 10 points seems like a lot, but it almost seems like it's like a trap, right? Like 10 points when this line came out, it's like kind of coming out at you. I understand why everybody wants to use Tampa Bay in their money line parlays. Your thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, I talked about how I use the public information as a filter. There's a lot of different subsets. Tampa Bay did not make the list. A lot of people thought they would. I had 7 plays for this weekend here in my video, which is still up here on WagerTalk TV, and Tampa was not one of them. So my point is, when a team isn't public, that kind of makes you think maybe you can trust them a little bit more. Look-ahead line was as low as 5 this summer for this game. As you said, it's now 10. It's crossed that key number. I do think it's almost a contrarian play now to play Tampa, actually. I actually saw some people in the comments in the video saying they like Carolina this week. And the fact that they're not fading Carolina anymore like they were all season, trust me a little bit more with Tampa, but it is pricey. Would have liked it at 9.5 or less, which there are a few 9.5s available still, mostly 10s out there now. This Tampa offense is explosive, and that will enable them, I think, to extend the game. And they're also coming off the Dallas loss last week, in which they were a very public side. I'm not sold on Bryce Young still. We talked about how he's playing better, but I looked over his last 11 games since he came back from being benched. He's had a QB rating above 86 only 2 times out of 11 games. So he's still been very mediocre, although he did have his best game of the season last week against the Cardinals. If I had to play it, I'd be on Tampa. It's gotten a little pricey. Would like it better at 9.5 or less.
If you guys do remember, Steve, I don't think you had popped on yet. VR said that he has groups playing 10-point teasers -130. Tampa Bay, Indianapolis, and the Bills are in those teasers.
Yeah, I would agree with both Buffalo and Tampa. I think both of those are nice straight-up win situations. The Colts is the other one. You'd have to get -7, right? Because then you get to +3. So we don't talk a lot about 10-point teasers, but you got to get to 3s. So the Colts would make a lot of sense there, +3, and then the other 2 teams pick it up. I bless that.
There you go. All right, guys, if you have a question for Steve, drop it in the chat. We've got 24 minutes until kickoff here, and we're going to take your questions up until the wire, but you got to give them to us. I know we've already seen quite a few NFL games be played this week, so there's not a lot on the slate, but B Daddy wants to know, any thoughts on Dallas versus Philadelphia for the side and total? John Murray said that Dallas was sharp. VR said Dallas was sharp, but then he also said the public was also coming in on Dallas today.
Yeah, this is another one that didn't make my videos, so in a way you could say the public might be on the Cowboys a little bit. It's another sneaky way to use that public information. And on the surface, no, Jalen Hurts, the Eagles are 7.5 to 9, depending on when you look this week. You're like, boy, that looks too high. Dallas is playing decent. But now that once it got down to that number of 7 the last couple of days, I actually kind of started leaning Philly. This is my free play of the day on my page at WagerTalk.com. Once again, we're on a 12-0 perfect run the last 3 Sundays on best bets, and I averaged 2 to 3 best bets a day on average. We had 6, 3, 3. We got 2 of them today. So this was my last cut. It's still a top opinion, and that would be the Eagles at -7 or less. Also would not disagree with the Eagles on a teaser now that it's 7.5 in most spots. So I think the Philly Eagles -6 on a teaser, get them down to 1.5 is probably the best option if you can't find the -7 anymore. Kenny Pickett's nothing special, but he's still experienced. He is a former starter with the Steelers. I'm not sold on this Dallas defense, so I think Pickett can still move the ball, and I actually think Philly will be focused for the fact that they have a backup in there. The rest of the players will step up. So I do like the Eagles at -7. Now that it's mostly 7.5, I think the teaser is probably a better option.
All right, be checking out some of those teasers. There is still a little bit of time if they move into that Wong position, as VR mentioned. Bills, Jets, first half under 23. Even money seems too easy. Your thoughts? Caleb wants to know, Steve. VR did say that the team total first half on the Bills, which was 16, was played under. Literally came through right at the end of his segment. I would agree. It does seem very easy to bet the under here against the Jets. Oh, boy. I bet it lands 23. It's 16 for Buffalo, 7 for the Jets. There's your 23.
Yeah, as I say, I was going to say both 16 and 23 are kind of ugly numbers. 17 and 24 are extremely key. So I don't think there's as much value with the under. That was my first thought. But I think another reason we're seeing some of the sharp money is the report about an hour ago when I was checking was rainy conditions. And once again, rain is overrated. That can actually help scoring. But I saw 20-mile-per-hour winds. Once you get to that 20 range, it does start to concern you a little bit. So this could be a little bit weather-related.
Yeah, that would make sense. You're absolutely right. Differences with weather. Wind is the only one that really matters.
Correct.
Oh, G wants to talk about this game. I already had to talk about this game on one show this week. This is the Sadness Bowl. That is the Tennessee Titans versus the Jaguars. Steve, these types of games, I know we can find value on, right? But also, are you going to be mad at yourself betting on one of these garbage teams at the end of the day on Sunday? I feel like you might.
Yeah, I do a lot of research, a lot of work. I've gone 12-0 the last 3 Sundays on best bets for my clients. So obviously, I do my due diligence. But there are some games that I brush over a little quicker than others, and this was one of them. I'm not touching this game. This is the equivalent of a bad horse race track where you just don't know what you're going to get. It's like handicapping 2 bad Sunbelt teams in college football, which is something I don't do much of anymore either. I think this is another example where they got to put numbers up on everything, and there's just some games that are tough to predict. I will say I don't think either team has quit on the season, so I do think we get a true result. Look-ahead line this summer, by the way, was Jacksonville -4 for what it's worth. Total was 46. Total is now 38.
Yep.
So maybe we take a stab with the over, but once again, not a game I'm touching.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask you. We've seen a lot of money come on the under. Mason Rudolph versus Mac Jones. I can kind of see this being easily a 9-7 final, and nobody would be shocked in the slightest. But we have missed the best of the number there on the total. Dennis Torres wants to know, Raiders or Saints? I don't get it. John Murray even said, Steve, why do the Raiders keep trying to win football games when they're not supposed to? They did last week. And then they had some flight issues. I don't know if you heard or saw on social media. They did not get into New Orleans till late last night. Very common knowledge at this point in time. Do you think that plays into the handicap whatsoever? Or did you already like the Saints in this spot?
First of all, Saints do make a decent teaser here. They're currently 1.5 to 2, so they're going to qualify. Now, I say decent because whenever you're playing a crap team, it's never a decent teaser. That's why I'd rather have the Packers up to 7.5, a team that's only lost by more than 5 once all season, right? Because the Saints do have the abilities to get blown out. So a teaser is probably not quite as strong in this situation. But I'll take the other side of the argument as well. Do we really want the Raiders laying points on the road against anybody? Yeah, they won last week, but they're still 1-10 straight up their last 11. And they're laying points this week. They also sell it, by the way, in Jacksonville's who they beat last week, who's no better than New Orleans. It's not like it was a quality win. And they also celebrated like they won the damn Super Bowl. I think the letdown actually happens this week. Meanwhile, you've got New Orleans coming off a 34-0 embarrassing loss on national TV Monday night. Teams don't quit on the season. And keep in mind, they lost by a single point to not my Commanders the week before. I think that was actually a flat spot last week. Rookie guy, young quarterback making a road start, now back at home. I look for a better effort. I think this is a play-on spot for New Orleans and a play-against spot for the Raiders. And I definitely do want nothing to do with one of the worst teams in the NFL laying points on the road.
I could not agree more with Steve Merril on that analysis. Oh, boy, here we go. Bill Sandoval wants to talk about some college basketball. I'm on the Merril special. William and Mary -8.5 against Navy. Oh, boy, here it is.
Going there in about 10 minutes.
All right, break it down for us, Steve. Tell me why we need to lay 8.5 with the Steve Merril special.
Yeah, so they're playing Navy. It's on the extra board. It's a non-conference game, a rare Sunday afternoon game. I'm going to miss the national anthem by the fife and drums, the Colonial Williamsburg fife and drums. I came here to do the show with you, Kelly. I'm missing the fife and drums. But no, seriously, William Mary's playing better this year. Brian Earl, first-year head coach out of Cornell, fast-paced. In fact, they take the third highest percentage of shots from three-point range of any team in the country out of 364 teams. They're also one of the best 2-point teams because when they don't shoot threes, they get a lot of backdoor cuts, easy layups. I actually think Navy might slow them down a little bit here. They don't want to run with them. I was a little surprised to see the line as high as it is. It was 9.5 overnight, actually, the initial number. The key is going to come down to 3-point variance, as it often does. And Navy's a disciplined team that'll probably slow it down. First half under might be worth a look in this one if you're looking for a little sneaky play. And Navy's 3-point defense on the season's been below average, 33% against teams that average just 30. So it's a good matchup for William & Mary. I think they'll probably open things up in the second half.
All right, good basketball breakdown. Steve, tell me what you've got going on college basketball-wise over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, no college hoops today. We're focusing on football, but I do have some NFL best bets, also that bonus free play I talked about. And don't sleep on Sundays. 6-0, 3-0, 3-0. We came on last week, said we were on a 9-0 run. Well, we're now on a 12-0 run the last 3 Sundays. Have not missed a Sunday best bet in nearly a month. I've got 2 more strong NFL plays going, 1 early, 1 late for my clients. Also, 7 advanced bowl games still available for this week, including one of the national quarterfinal playoff games. Not a bad time to get a direct subscription, whether it's a 1 day, a 1 month, or 1 year. Get an instant 25% discount on every purchase for the next 3 days till the end of December with promo code HOLIDAY25, HOLIDAY25. HOLIDAY25, instant 25% discount on every purchase you make for the next 3 days and nights, including my perfect Sunday run right now. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, and get there quicker with that shortcut, WT.buzz/SM.
Great hanging out with you guys here on this beautiful Sunday. Thank you to Steve Merril. Thank you to John Murray. Thank you to VR. We'll see you guys back here next Saturday for another edition of Wager Talk's Last Call.